The Iliad by Homer. Translated by Samuel Butler. Book 1. The quarrel between Agamemnon and Achilles. Achilles withdraws from the war, and sends his mother Thetis to ask Jove to help the Trojans. Scene between Jove and Juno on Olympus. Sing, O goddess, the anger of Achilles, son of Peleus, that brought countless ills upon the Achaeans. Many a brave soul did it send hurrying down to Hades, and many a hero did it yield a prey to dogs and vultures, for so were the counsels of Jove fulfilled from the day on which the son of Atreus, king of men, and great Achilles first fell out with one another. And which of the gods was it that set them on to quarrel? It was the son of Jove and Leto, for he was angry with the king, and sent a pestilence upon the host to plague the people, because the son of Atreus had dishonored Chryses his priest. Now Chryses had come to the ships of the Achaeans to free his daughter, and had brought with him a great ransom. Moreover he bore in his hand the sceptre of Apollo, wreathed with a suppliant's wreath. And he besought the Achaeans, but most of all the 2 sons of Atreus, who were their chiefs. "Sons of Atreus," he cried, "and all other Achaeans, may the gods who dwell in Olympus grant you to sack the city of Priam, and to reach your homes in safety, but free my daughter, and accept a ransom for her, in reverence to Apollo, son of Jove." On this, the rest of the Achaeans with one voice were for respecting the priest, and taking the ransom that he offered. But not so Agamemnon, who spoke fiercely to him, and sent him roughly away. "Old man," said he, "let me not find you tarrying about our ships, nor yet coming hereafter. Your sceptre of the god and your wreath shall profit you nothing. I will not free her. She shall grow old in my house at Argos, far from her own home, busying herself with her loom and visiting my couch. So go, and do not provoke me, or it shall be the worse for you." The old man feared him and obeyed. Not a word he spoke, but went by the shore of the sounding sea, and prayed apart to King Apollo, whom lovely Leto had borne. "Hear me," he cried, "O god of the silver bow, that protectest Chryse and holy Scylla, and rulest Tenedos with thy might. Hear me, O thou of Sminthe. If I have ever decked your temple with garlands, or burned your thigh bones in fat of bulls or goats, grant my prayer, and let your arrows avenge these my tears upon the Danaans." Thus did he pray, and Apollo heard his prayer. He came down furious from the summits of Olympus, with his bow and his quiver upon his shoulder, and the arrows rattled on his back with the rage that trembled within him. He sat himself down away from the ships, with a face as dark as night, and his silver bow rang death as he shot his arrow in the midst of them. First he smote their mules and their hounds, but presently he aimed his shafts at the people themselves, and all day long the pyres of the dead were burning. For 9 whole days he shot his arrows among the people, but upon the 10th day Achilles called them in assembly, moved thereto by Juno, who saw the Achaeans in their death throes and had compassion upon them. Then, when they were got together, he rose and spoke among them. "Son of Atreus," said he, "I deem that we should now turn roving home, if we would escape destruction, for we are being cut down by war and pestilence at once. Let us ask some priest or prophet, or some reader of dreams, for dreams too are of Jove, who can tell us why Phoebus Apollo is so angry, and say whether it is for some vow that we have broken, or hecatomb that we have not offered, and whether he will accept the savour of lambs and goats without blemish, so as to take away the plague from us." With these words he sat down, and Calchas, son of Thestor, wisest of augurs, who knew things past, present, and to come, rose to speak. He it was who had guided the Achaeans with their fleet to Ilias, through the prophesyings of which Phoebus Apollo had inspired him. With all sincerity and goodwill he addressed them thus. "Achilles, loved of heaven, you bid me tell you about the anger of King Apollo. I will therefore do so, but consider first and swear that you will stand by me heartily in word and deed, for I know that I shall offend one who rules the Argives with might, to whom all the Achaeans are in subjection. A plain man cannot stand against the anger of a king, who, if he swallow his displeasure now, will yet nurse revenge till he has wreaked it. Consider, therefore, whether or no you will protect me. And Achilles answered, Fear not, but speak as it is borne upon you from heaven. For by Apollo, Calchas, to whom you pray, and whose oracles you reveal to us, not a Danaan at our ships shall lay his hand upon you, while I yet live to look upon the face of the earth. No, not though you name Agamemnon himself, who is by far the foremost of the Achaeans. Thereon the seer spoke boldly. The god, he said, is angry neither about vow nor hecatomb, but for his priest's sake, whom Agamemnon has dishonored, in that he would not free his daughter, nor take a ransom for her. Therefore he has sent these evils upon us, and will yet send others. He will not deliver the Danaans from this pestilence till Agamemnon has restored the girl without fee or ransom to her father, and has sent a holy hecatomb to Chryse. Thus we may perhaps appease him. With these words he sat down, and Agamemnon rose in anger. His heart was black with rage, and his eyes flashed fire as he scowled on Calchas and said, Seer of evil, you never yet prophesied smooth things concerning me, but have ever loved to foretell that which was evil. You have brought me neither comfort nor performance, and now you come seeing among the Danaans, and saying that Apollo has plagued us because I would not take a ransom for this girl, the daughter of Chryses. I have set my heart on keeping her in my own house, for I love her better even than my own wife Clytemnestra, whose peer she is alike in form and feature, in understanding and accomplishments. Still, I will give her up if I must, for I would have the people live, not die. But you must find me a prize instead, or I alone among the Argives shall be without one. This is not well, for you behold, all of you, that my prize is to go elsewhither. And Achilles answered, Most noble son of Atreus, covetous beyond all mankind, how shall the Achaeans find you another prize? We have no common store from which to take one. Those we took from the cities have been awarded. We cannot disallow the awards that have been made already. Give this girl, therefore, to the god, and if ever Jove grants us to sack the city of Troy, we will requite you 3- and 4-fold. Then Agamemnon said, Achilles, valiant though you be, you shall not thus outwit me. You shall not overreach, and you shall not persuade me. Are you to keep your own prize, while I sit tamely under my loss, and give up the girl at your bidding? Let the Achaeans find me a prize in fair exchange to my liking, or I will come and take your own, or that of Ajax or of Ulysses, and he to whomsoever I may come shall rue my coming. But of this we will take thought hereafter. For the present, let us draw a ship into the sea, and find a crew for her expressly. Let us put a hecatomb on board, and let us send Chryseis also. Further, let some chief man among us be in command, either Ajax, or Idomeneus, or yourself, son of Peleus, mighty warrior that you are, that we may offer sacrifice and appease the anger of the god. Achilles scowled at him and answered, You are steeped in insolence and lust of gain. With what heart can any of the Achaeans do your bidding, either on foray or in open fighting? I came not warring here for any ill the Trojans had done me. I had no quarrel with them. They have not raided my cattle nor my horses, nor cut down my harvests on the rich plains of Phthia. For between me and them there is a great space, both mountain and sounding sea. We have followed you, Sir Insolence, for your pleasure, not ours, to gain satisfaction from the Trojans for your shameless self and for Menelaus. You forget this, and threaten to rob me of the prize for which I have toiled, and which the sons of the Achaeans have given me. Never when the Achaeans sack any rich city of the Trojans do I receive so good a prize as you do, though it is my hands that do the better part of the fighting. When the sharing comes, your share is far the largest, and I, forsooth, must go back to my ships, take what I can get and be thankful, when my labor of fighting is done. Now, therefore, I shall go back to Phthia. It will be much better for me to return home with my ships, for I will not stay here dishonored, to gather gold and substance for you. And Agamemnon answered, Fly if you will, I shall make you no prayers to stay you. I have others here who will do me honor, and above all Jove, the Lord of counsel. There is no king here so hateful to me as you are, for you are ever quarrelsome and ill-affected. What though you be brave? Was it not heaven that made you so? Go home then, with your ships and comrades, to lord it over the Myrmidons. I care neither for you nor for your anger, and thus will I do. Since Phoebus Apollo is taking Chryseis from me, I shall send her with my ship and my followers, but I shall come to your tent, and take your own prize, Briseis, that you may learn how much stronger I am than you are, and that another may fear to set himself up as equal or comparable with me. The son of Peleus was furious, and his heart within his shaggy breast was divided whether to draw his sword, push the others aside, and kill the son of Atreus, or to restrain himself and check his anger. While he was thus in two minds, and was drawing his mighty sword from its scabbard, Minerva came down from heaven, for Juno had sent her in the love she bore to them both, and seized the son of Peleus by his yellow hair, visible to him alone, for of the others no man could see her. Achilles turned in amaze, and by the fire that flashed from her eyes at once knew that she was Minerva. "Why are you here," said he, "daughter of Aegeus-bearing Jove? To see the pride of Agamemnon, son of Atreus? Let me tell you, and it shall surely be, he shall pay for this insolence with his life." And Minerva said, "I come from heaven, if you will hear me, to bid you stay your anger. Juno has sent me, who cares for both of you alike. Cease then this brawling, and do not draw your sword. Rail at him if you will, and your railing will not be vain, for I tell you, and it shall surely be, that you shall hereafter receive gifts 3 times as splendid by reason of this present insult. Hold, therefore, and obey." "Goddess," answered Achilles, "however angry a man may be, he must do as you two command him. This will be best, for the gods ever hear the prayers of him who has obeyed them." He stayed his hand on the silver hilt of his sword, and thrust it back into the scabbard as Minerva bade him. Then she went back to Olympus among the other gods, and to the house of Aegeus-bearing Jove. But the son of Peleus again began railing at the son of Atreus, for he was still in a rage. "Wine-bibber," he cried, "with the face of a dog and the heart of a hind, you never dare to go out with the host in fight, nor yet with our chosen men in ambuscade. You shun this as you do death itself. You had rather go round and rob his prizes from any man who contradicts you. You devour your people, for you are king over a feeble folk. Otherwise, son of Atreus, henceforward you would insult no man. Therefore I say, and swear it with a great oath, nay, by this my sceptre which shall sprout neither leaf nor shoot, nor bud anew from the day on which it left its parent stem upon the mountains, for the axe stripped it of leaf and bark, and now the sons of the Achaeans bear it as judges and guardians of the decrees of heaven. So surely and solemnly do I swear that hereafter they shall look fondly for Achilles and shall not find him. In the day of your distress, when your men fall dying by the murderous hand of Hector, you shall not know how to help them, and shall rend your heart with rage for the hour when you offered insult to the bravest of the Achaeans." With this, the son of Peleus dashed his gold-bestudded sceptre on the ground and took his seat, while the son of Atreus was beginning fiercely from his place upon the other side. Then up rose smooth-tongued Nestor, the facile speaker of the Pylians, and the words fell from his lips sweeter than honey. 2 generations of men, born and bred in Pylos, had passed away under his rule, and he was now reigning over the 3rd. With all sincerity and goodwill, therefore, he addressed them thus. "Of a truth," he said, "a great sorrow has befallen the Achaean land. Surely Priam with his sons would rejoice, and the Trojans be glad at heart if they could hear this quarrel between you two, who are so excellent in fight and counsel. I am older than either of you, therefore be guided by me. Moreover, I have been the familiar friend of men even greater than you are, and they did not disregard my counsels. Never again can I behold such men as Pirithous and Dryas, shepherd of his people, or as Caeneus, Exadius, godlike Polyphemus, and Theseus, son of Aegeus, peer of the immortals. These were the mightiest men ever born upon this earth. Mightiest were they, and when they fought the fiercest tribes of mountain savages, they utterly overthrew them. I came from distant Pylos, and went about among them, for they would have me come, and I fought as was in me to do. Not a man now living could withstand them, but they heard my words, and were persuaded by them. So be it also with yourselves, for this is the more excellent way. Therefore, Agamemnon, though you be strong, take not this girl away, for the sons of the Achaeans have already given her to Achilles. And you, Achilles, strive not further with the king, for no man who by the grace of Jove wields a sceptre has like honour with Agamemnon. You are strong and have a goddess for your mother, but Agamemnon is stronger than you, for he has more people under him. Son of Atreus, check your anger, I implore you. End this quarrel with Achilles, who in the day of battle is a tower of strength to the Achaeans. And Agamemnon answered, Sir, all that you have said is true, but this fellow must needs become our lord and master. He must be lord of all, king of all, and captain of all, and this shall hardly be. Granted that the gods have made him a great warrior, have they also given him the right to speak with railing? Achilles interrupted him. I should be a mean coward, he cried, were I to give in to you in all things. Order other people about, not me, for I shall obey no longer. Furthermore I say, and lay my saying to your heart, I shall fight neither you nor any man about this girl, for those that take were those also that gave. But of all else that is at my ship you shall carry away nothing by force. Try, that others may see. If you do, my spear shall be reddened with your blood. When they had quarrelled thus angrily, they rose and broke up the assembly at the ships of the Achaeans. The son of Peleus went back to his tents and ships with the son of Menoetius and his company, while Agamemnon drew a vessel into the water and chose a crew of 20 oarsmen. He escorted Chryseis on board and sent moreover a hecatomb for the god, and Ulysses went as captain. These, then, went on board and sailed their ways over the sea. But the son of Atreus bade the people purify themselves. So they purified themselves and cast their filth into the sea. Then they offered hecatombs of bulls and goats without blemish on the seashore, and the smoke with the savour of their sacrifice rose curling up towards heaven. Thus did they busy themselves through the host. But Agamemnon did not forget the threat that he had made Achilles, and called his trusty messengers and squires, Talthybius and Eurybides. Go, said he, to the tent of Achilles, son of Peleus. Take Briseis by the hand and bring her hither. If he will not give her, I shall come with others and take her, which will press him harder. He charged them straitly further and dismissed them, whereon they went their way sorrowfully by the seaside, till they came to the tents and ships of the Myrmidons. They found Achilles sitting by his tent and his ships, and ill pleased he was when he beheld them. They stood fearfully and reverently before him, and never a word did they speak, but he knew them and said, Welcome, heralds, messengers of gods and men. Draw near. My quarrel is not with you, but with Agamemnon, who has sent you for the girl Briseis. Therefore, Patroclus, bring her and give her to them, but let them be witnesses by the blessed gods, by mortal men and by the fierceness of Agamemnon's anger, that if ever again there be need of me to save the people from ruin, they shall seek and they shall not find. Agamemnon is mad with rage, and knows not how to look before and after that the Achaeans may fight by their ships in safety. Patroclus did as his dear comrade had bidden him. He brought Briseis from the tent, and gave her over to the heralds, who took her with them to the ships of the Achaeans, and the woman was loth to go. Then Achilles went all alone by the side of the hoar sea, weeping and looking out upon the boundless waste of waters. He raised his hands in prayer to his immortal mother. Mother, he cried, you bore me doomed to live but for a little season. Surely Jove, who thunders from Olympus, might have made that little glorious. It is not so. Agamemnon, son of Atreus, has done me dishonour, and has robbed me of my prize by force. As he spoke he wept aloud, and his mother heard him where she was sitting in the depths of the sea, hard by the old man her father. Forthwith she rose as it were a grey mist out of the waves, sat down before him as he stood weeping, caressed him with her hand, and said, My son, why are you weeping? What is it that grieves you? Keep it not from me, but tell me, that we may know it together. Achilles drew a deep sigh and said, You know it. Why tell you what you know well already? We went to Thebe, the strong city of Eetion, sacked it, and brought hither the spoil. The sons of the Achaeans shared it duly among themselves, and chose lovely Chryseis as the meed of Agamemnon. But Chryses, priest of Apollo, came to the ships of the Achaeans to free his daughter, and brought with him a great ransom. Moreover he bore in his hand the sceptre of Apollo, wreathed with a suppliant's wreath, and he besought the Achaeans, but most of all the 2 sons of Atreus, who were their chiefs. On this the rest of the Achaeans with one voice were for respecting the priest and taking the ransom that he offered. But not so Agamemnon, who spoke fiercely to him and sent him roughly away. So he went back in anger, and Apollo, who loved him dearly, heard his prayer. Then the god sent a deadly dart upon the Argives, and the people dived thick on one another, for the arrows went every whither among the wide host of the Achaeans. At last a seer, in the fullness of his knowledge, declared to us the oracles of Apollo, and I was myself first to say that we should appease him. Whereon the son of Atreus rose in anger, and threatened that which he has since done. The Achaeans are now taking the girl in a ship to Chryse, and sending gifts of sacrifice to the god. But the heralds have just taken from my tent the daughter of Briseus, whom the Achaeans had awarded to myself. Help your brave son, therefore, if you are able. Go to Olympus, and if you have ever done him service in word or deed, implore the aid of Jove. Ofttimes in my father's house have I heard you glory in that you alone of the immortals saved the son of Saturn from ruin, when the others, with Juno, Neptune, and Pallas, Minerva, would have put him in bonds. It was you, goddess, who delivered him by calling to Olympus the 100-handed monster whom gods call Briareus, but men Aegion, for he is stronger even than his father. When therefore he took his seat all glorious beside the son of Saturn, the other gods were afraid and did not bind him. Go then to him, remind him of all this, clasp his knees and bid him give succour to the Trojans. Let the Achaeans be hemmed in at the sterns of their ships, and perish on the seashore, that they may reap what joy they may of their king, and that Agamemnon may rue his blindness in offering insult to the foremost of the Achaeans. Thetis wept and answered, My son, woe is me that I should have borne or suckled you. Would indeed that you had lived your span free from all sorrow at your ships, for it is all too brief. Alas, that you should be at once short of life and long of sorrow above your peers. Woe, therefore, was the hour in which I bore you. Nevertheless, I will go to the snowy heights of Olympus, and tell this tale to Jove, if he will hear our prayer. Meanwhile, stay where you are with your ships. Nurse your anger against the Achaeans, and hold aloof from fight. For Jove went yesterday to Oceanus, to a feast among the Ethiopians, and the other gods went with him. He will return to Olympus 12 days hence. I will then go to his mansion paved with bronze, and will beseech him, nor do I doubt that I shall be able to persuade him. On this she left him, still furious at the loss of her that had been taken from him. Meanwhile Ulysses reached Chryse with the hecatomb. When they had come inside the harbour, they furled the sails and laid them in the ship's hold. They slackened the forestays, lowered the mast into its place, and rowed the ship to the place where they would have her lie. There they cast out their mooring stones, and made fast the hawsers. Then they got out upon the seashore, and landed the hecatomb for Apollo. Chryseis also left the ship, and Ulysses led her to the altar to deliver her into the hands of her father. Chryses, said he, King Agamemnon has sent me to bring you back your child, and to offer sacrifice to Apollo on behalf of the Danaans, that we may propitiate the god who has now brought sorrow upon the Argives. So saying, he gave the girl over to her father, who received her gladly, and they ranged the holy hecatomb all orderly round the altar of the god. They washed their hands and took up the barley meal to sprinkle over their victims, while Chryses lifted up his hands and prayed aloud on their behalf. Hear me, he cried, O god of the silver bow, that protectest Chrysa and holy Scylla, and rulest Tenedos with thy might, even as thou didst hear me aforetime when I prayed, and didst press hardly upon the Achaeans, so hear me yet again, and stay this fearful pestilence from the Danaans. Thus did he pray, and Apollo heard his prayer. When they had done praying and sprinkling the barley meal, they drew back the heads of the victims, and killed and flayed them. They cut out the thigh bones, wrapped them round in 2 layers of fat, set some pieces of raw meat on the top of them, and then Chryses laid them on the wood fire and poured wine over them, while the young men stood near him, with 5-pronged spits in their hands. When the thigh bones were burnt, and they had tasted the inward meats, they cut the rest up small, put the pieces upon the spits, roasted them till they were done, and drew them off. Then, when they had finished their work, and the feast was ready, they ate it, and every man had his full share, so that all were satisfied. As soon as they had had enough to eat and drink, pages filled the mixing bowl with wine and water and handed it round, after giving every man his drink offering. Thus all day long the young men worshipped the god with song, hymning him and chanting the joyous paean, and the god took pleasure in their voices. But when the sun went down, and it came on dark, they laid themselves down to sleep by the stern cables of the ship, and when the child of morning, rosy-fingered dawn, appeared, they again set sail for the host of the Achaeans. Apollo sent them a fair wind, so they raised their mast and hoisted their white sails aloft. As the sail bellied with the wind, the ship flew through the deep blue water, and the foam hissed against her bows as she sped onward. When they reached the wide-stretching host of the Achaeans, they drew the vessel ashore, high and dry upon the sands, set her strong props beneath her, and went their ways to their own tents and ships. But Achilles abode at his ships, and nursed his anger. He went not to the honourable assembly, and sallied not forth to fight, but gnawed at his own heart, pining for battle and the war cry. Now, after 12 days the immortal gods came back in a body to Olympus, and Jove led the way. Thetis was not unmindful of the charge her son had laid upon her, so she rose from under the sea, and went through great heaven with early morning to Olympus, where she found the mighty son of Saturn sitting all alone upon its topmost ridges. She sat herself down before him, and with her left hand seized his knees, while with her right she caught him under the chin and besought him, saying, "Father Jove, if I ever did you service in word or deed among the immortals, hear my prayer, and do honour to my son, whose life is to be cut short so early. King Agamemnon has dishonoured him by taking his prize and keeping her. Honour him then yourself, Olympian lord of counsel, and grant victory to the Trojans, till the Achaeans give my son his due, and load him with riches and requital." Jove sat for a while silent, and without word, but Thetis still kept firm hold of his knees, and besought him a second time. "Incline your head," said she, "and promise me surely, or else deny me, for you have nothing to fear, that I may learn how greatly you disdain me." At this Jove was much troubled, and answered, "I shall have trouble if you set me quarrelling with Juno, for she will provoke me with her taunting speeches. Even now she is always railing at me before the other gods, and accusing me of giving aid to the Trojans. Go back now, lest she should find out. I will consider the matter, and will bring it about as you wish. See, I incline my head that you may believe me. This is the most solemn promise that I can give to any god. I never recall my word, or deceive, or fail to do what I say, when I have nodded my head." As he spoke, the son of Saturn bowed his dark brows, and the ambrosial locks swayed on his immortal head till vast Olympus reeled. When the pair had thus laid their plans, they parted, Jove to his house, while the goddess quitted the splendour of Olympus and plunged into the depths of the sea. The gods rose from their seats before the coming of their sire. Not one of them dared to remain sitting, but all stood up as he came among them. There, then, he took his seat. But Juno, when she saw him, knew that he and the old merman's daughter, silver-footed Thetis, had been hatching mischief, so she at once began to upbraid him. "Trickster!" she cried, "which of the gods have you been taking into your counsels now? You are always settling matters in secret behind my back, and have never yet told me, if you could help it, one word of your intentions." "Juno," replied the sire of gods and men, "you must not expect to be informed of all my counsels. You are my wife, but you would find it hard to understand them. When it is proper for you to hear, there is no one, god or man, who will be told sooner. But when I mean to keep a matter to myself, you must not pry nor ask questions." "Dread son of Saturn," answered Juno, "what are you talking about? I? Pry and ask questions? Never! I let you have your own way in everything. Still, I have strong misgivings that the old merman's daughter Thetis has been talking you over, for she was with you and had hold of your knees this selfsame morning. I believe, therefore, that you have been promising her to give glory to Achilles, and to kill much people at the ships of the Achaeans." "Wife," said Jove, "I can do nothing but you suspect me and find it out. You will take nothing by it, for I shall only dislike you the more, and it will go harder with you. Granted that it is as you say, I mean to have it so. Sit down and hold your tongue as I bid you, for if I once begin to lay my hands about you, though all heaven were on your side, it would profit you nothing." On this Juno was frightened, so she curbed her stubborn will and sat down in silence. but the heavenly beings were disquieted throughout the house of Jove, till the cunning workman Vulcan began to try and pacify his mother Juno. "It will be intolerable," said he, "if you two fall to wrangling and setting heaven in an uproar about a pack of mortals. If such ill counsels are to prevail, we shall have no pleasure at our banquet. Let me then advise my mother, and she must herself know that it will be better, to make friends with my dear father Jove, lest he again scold her and disturb our feast. If the Olympian thunderer wants to hurl us all from our seats, he can do so, for he is far the strongest. So give him fair words, and he then will soon be in a good humour with us." As he spoke, he took a double cup of nectar, and placed it in his mother's hand. "Cheer up, my dear mother," said he, "and make the best of it. I love you dearly, and should be very sorry to see you get a thrashing. However grieved I might be, I could not help, for there is no standing against Jove. Once before, when I was trying to help you, he caught me by the foot and flung me from the heavenly threshold. All day long from morn till eve was I falling, till at sunset I came to ground in the island of Lemnos, and there I lay, with very little life left in me, till the Sintians came and tended me." Juno smiled at this, and as she smiled she took the cup from her son's hands. Then Vulcan drew sweet nectar from the mixing bowl, and served it round among the gods, going from left to right, and the blessed gods laughed out a loud applause as they saw him bustling about the heavenly mansion. Thus, through the livelong day, to the going down of the sun they feasted, and every one had his full share, so that all were satisfied. Apollo struck his lyre, and the Muses lifted up their sweet voices, calling and answering one another. But when the sun's glorious light had faded, they went home to bed, each in his own abode, which lame Vulcan with his consummate skill had fashioned for them. So Jove, the Olympian lord of thunder, hied him to the bed in which he always slept, and when he had got on to it he went to sleep, with Juno of the golden throne by his side. End of Book 1.
The Iliad by Homer, translated by Samuel Butler, Book 2. Jove sends a lying dream to Agamemnon, who thereon calls the chiefs in assembly and proposes to sound the mind of his army. In the end, they march to fight. Catalogue of the Achaean and Trojan forces. Now the other gods and the armed warriors on the plain slept soundly, but Jove was wakeful, for he was thinking how to do honors to Achilles, and destroyed much people at the ships of the Achaeans. In the end, he deemed it would be best to send a lying dream to King Agamemnon. So he called one to him and said, "Lying dream, go to the ships of the Achaeans, into the tent of Agamemnon, and say to him word for word as I now bid you. Tell him to get the Achaeans instantly under arms, for he shall take Troy. There are no longer divided counsels among the gods. Juno has brought them to her own mind, and woe betides the Trojans." The dream went when it had heard its message, and soon reached the ships of the Achaeans. It sought Agamemnon, son of Atreus, and found him in his tent, wrapped in a profound slumber. It hovered over his head in the likeness of Nestor, son of Neleus, whom Agamemnon honored above all his counselors, and said, "You are sleeping, son of Atreus. One who has the welfare of his host and so much other care upon his shoulders should dock his sleep. Hear me at once, for I come as a messenger from Jove, who, though he be not near, yet takes thought for you and pities you. He bids you to get the Achaeans instantly under arms, for you shall take Troy. There are no longer divided counsels among the gods. Juno has brought them over to her own mind, and woe betide the Trojans at the hand of Jove. Remember this, and when you wake, see that it does not escape you." The dream then left him, and he thought of things that were surely not to be accomplished. He thought that on the same day he was to take the city of Priam, but he knew little what was in the mind of Jove, who had many another hard-fought fight in store alike for Danaans and Trojans. Then presently he woke, with the divine message still ringing in his ears, so he sat upright, and put on his soft shirt so fair and new, and over this his heavy cloak. He bound his sandals onto his comely feet, and slung his silver-studded sword about his shoulders. Then he took the imperishable staff of his father, and sallied forth to the ships of the Achaeans. The goddess Dawn now wended her way to vast Olympus that she might herald the day to Jove and to the other immortals, and Agamemnon sent the criers round to call the people in assembly. So they called them, and the people gathered thereon. But first he summoned a meeting of the elders at the ship of Nestor, king of Pylos, and when they were assembled, he laid a cunning counsel before them. "My friends," said he, "I have had a dream from heaven in the dead of night, and its face and figure resembled none but Nestor's. It hovered over my head and said, 'You are sleeping, son of Atreus. One who has the welfare of his host and so much other care upon his shoulders should dock his sleep. Hear me at once, for I am a messenger from Jove, who, though he be not near, yet takes thought for you and pities you. He bids you to get the Achaeans instantly under arms, for you shall take Troy. There are no longer divided counsels among the gods. Juno has brought them over to her own mind, and woe betides the Trojans at the hand of Jove. Remember this.' The dream then vanished, and I awoke. Let us now, therefore, arm the sons of the Achaeans. But it will be well that I should first sound them, and to this end I will tell them to fly with their ships. But do you others go about among the host and prevent their doing so." He then sat down, and Nestor, the prince of Pylos, with all sincerity and goodwill, addressed them thus. "My friends," said he, "princes and counselors of the Argives, if any other man of the Achaeans had told us of this dream, we should have declared it false, and would have had nothing to do with it. But he who has seen it is the foremost man among us. We must therefore set about getting the people under arms." With this, he led the way from the assembly, and the other sceptred kings rose with him in obedience to the word of Agamemnon. But the people pressed forward to hear. They swarmed like bees that sally from some hollow cave and flit in countless throng among the spring flowers, bunched in knots and clusters. Even so did the mighty multitude pour from ships and tents to the assembly, and range themselves upon the wide-watered shore, while among them ran wildfire Rumor, messenger of Jove, urging them ever to the fore. Thus they gathered in a pell-mell of mad confusion, and the earth groaned under the tramp of men as the people sought their places. 9 heralds went crying about among them to stay their tumult and bid them listen to the kings, till at last they were got into their several places and ceased their clamor. Then King Agamemnon rose, holding his scepter. This was the work of Vulcan, who gave it to Jove, the son of Saturn. Jove gave it to Mercury, slayer of Argus, guide and guardian. King Mercury gave it to Pelops, the mighty charioteer, and Pelops to Atreus, shepherd of his people. Atreus, when he died, left it to Thyestes, rich in flocks, and Thyestes in his turn left it to be borne by Agamemnon, that he might be the lord of all Argos and of the isles. Leaning then on his scepter, he addressed the Argives. "My friends," he said, "heroes, servants of Mars, the hand of heaven has been laid heavily upon me. Cruel Jove gave me his solemn promise that I should sack the city of Priam before returning, but he has played me false, and is now bidding me go ingloriously back to Argos with the loss of much people. Such is the will of Jove, who has laid many a proud city in the dust, as he will yet lay others, for his power is above all. It will be a sorry tale hereafter that an Achaean host, at once so great and valiant, battled in vain against men fewer in number than themselves, but as yet the end is not in sight. Think that the Achaeans and Trojans have sworn to a solemn covenant, and that they have each been numbered, the Trojans by the roll of their householders, and we by companies of 10. Think further that each of our companies desired to have a Trojan householder to pour out their wine. We are so much greatly more in number than full many company would have us go without the cupbearer. But they have in the town allies from other places, and it is these that hinder me from being able to sack the rich city of Iliad. 9 of Jove's years are gone. The timbers of our ships have rotted. Their tackling is sound no longer. Our wives and little ones at home look anxiously for our coming. But the work that we came hither to do has not been done. Now, therefore, let us all do as I say. Let us sail back to our own land, for we shall not take Troy." With these words he moved the hearts of the multitude, so many of them as knew not the cunning counsel of Agamemnon. They surged to and fro like waves of the Icarian sea, when the east and south winds break from heaven's cloud to lash them, or as when the west wind sweeps over a field of corn and the ears bow beneath the blast, even so were they swayed as they flew with loud cries towards the ships, and the dust from under their feet rose heavenward. They cheered each other on to draw the ships into the sea. They cleared the channels in front of them. They began taking away the stays from underneath them, and the welkin rang with their glad cries, so eager were they to return. Then surely the Argives would have returned after a fashion that was not fated. But Juno said to Minerva, "Alas, daughter of aegis-bearing Jove, unweariable, shall the Argives fly home to their own land over the broad sea, and leave Priam and the Trojans the glory of still keeping Helen, for whose sake so many of the Achaeans have died at Troy far from their homes? Go about at once among the host, and speak fairly to them, man by man, that they draw not their ships into the sea." Minerva was not slack to do her bidding. Down she darted from the topmost summits of Olympus, and in a moment she was at the ships of the Achaeans. There she found Ulysses, peer of Jove in council, standing alone. He had not yet as laid a hand upon his ship, for he was grieved and sorry. So she went close up to him and said, "Ulysses, noble son of Laertes, are you going to fling yourself into your ships and be off home to your own land in this way? Will you leave Priam and the Trojans the glory of still keeping Helen, for whose sake so many of the Achaeans have died at Troy, far from their homes? Go about at once among the host, and speak fairly to them, man by man, that they draw not their ships into the sea." Ulysses knew the voice of that goddess. He flung his cloak from him and set off to run. His servant Eurybates, a man of Ithaca, who waited on him, took charge of the cloak, whereon Ulysses went straight up to Agamemnon and received from him his ancestral imperishable staff. With this he went about among the ships of the Achaeans. Whenever he met a king or chieftain, he stood by him and spoke fairly. "Sir," said he, "this flight is cowardly and unworthy. Stand to your post, and bid your people also keep their places. You do not yet know the full mind of Agamemnon. He was sounding us, and ere long will visit the Achaeans with his displeasure. We were not all of us at the council to hear what he then said. See to it lest he be angry and do us a mischief, for the pride of kings is great, and the hand of Jove is with them." But when he came across any common man who was making a noise, he struck him with his staff and rebuked him, saying, "Sirrah, hold your peace, and listen to better men than yourself. You are a coward and no soldier. You are nobody either in fight or council. We cannot all be kings. It is not well that there should be so many masters. One man must be supreme, one king to whom the son of scheming Saturn has given the scepter of sovereignty over you all." Thus masterfully did he go about among the host, and the people hurried back to the council from their tents and ships with the sound of the thunder of surf when it comes crashing down upon the shore, and all the sea is in an uproar. The rest now took their seats, and kept to their own several places, but Thersites still went on wagging his unbridled tongue. A man of many words, and those unseemly, a monger of sedition, a railer against all who were in authority, who cared not what he said, so that he might set the Achaeans in a laugh. He was the ugliest man of all those that came before Troy, bandy-legged, lame of one foot, with his two shoulders rounded and hunched over his chest. His head ran up to a point, but there was little hair on top of it. Achilles and Ulysses hated him worst of all, for it was with them that he was most wont to wrangle. Now, however, with a squeaky voice, he began heaping his abuse on Agamemnon. The Achaeans were angry and disgusted, yet none the less he kept on brawling and bawling at the son of Atreus. "Agamemnon," he cried, "what ails you now, and what more do you want? Your tents are filled with bronze and with fair women, for whenever we take the town we give you the pick of them. Would you have yet more gold, which some Trojan is to give you as ransom for his son when I or another Achaean has taken him prisoner? Or is it some young girl to hide and lie with? It is not well that you, the ruler of the Achaeans, should bring them into such misery. Weakling cowards, women rather than men, let us sail home and leave this fellow here at Troy to stew in his own meads of honor, and discover whether we were any service to him or no. Achilles is a much better man than he is, and see how he has treated him, robbing him of his prize and keeping it to himself. Achilles takes it meekly and shows no fight. If he did, son of Atreus, you would never again insult him." Thus railed Thersites, but Ulysses at once went up to him and rebuked him sternly. "Check your glib tongue, Thersites," said he, "and babble not a word further. Chide not with princes when you have none to back you. There is no viler creature come before Troy with the son of Atreus. Drop this chatter about kings, and neither revile them, nor keep harping about going home. We do not yet know how things are going to be, nor whether the Achaeans are to return with good success or evil. How dare you jibe at Agamemnon because the Danaans have awarded him so many prizes? I tell you therefore, and it shall surely be, that if I again catch you talking such nonsense, I will either forfeit my own head and be called no more father of Telemachus, or I will take you, strip you stark naked, and whip you out of the assembly till you go blubbering back to the ships." On this he beat him with his staff about the back and shoulders till he dropped and fell a-weeping. The golden scepter raised the bloody wheel on his back, so he sat down frightened and in pain, looking foolish as he wiped the tears from his eyes. The people were sorry for him, yet they laughed heartily, and one would turn to his neighbor, saying, "Ulysses has done many a good thing ere now in fight and council, but he never did the Argives a better turn than when he stopped this fellow a mouth from prattling further. He will give the kings no more of his insolence." Thus said the people. Then Ulysses rose, scepter in hand, and Minerva in the likeness of a herald bade the people be still, that those who were far off might hear him and consider his counsel. He therefore with all sincerity and goodwill addressed them thus: "King Agamemnon, the Achaeans are for making you a byword among all mankind. They forget the promise they made you when they set out from Argos, that you should not return till you had sacked the town of Troy, and, like children or widowed women, they murmur and would set off homeward. True it is that they have had toil enough to be disheartened. A man chafes at having to stay away from his wife either for a single month, when he's on shipboard, at the mercy of wind and sea. But now it is 9 long years that we have been kept here. I cannot therefore blame the Achaeans if they turn restive. Still, we shall be shamed if we go home empty after so long a stay. Therefore, my friends, be patient yet a little longer, that we may learn whether the prophesyings of Calchas were false or true. All who have not since perished must remember, as though it were yesterday or the day before, how the ships of the Achaeans were destined in Aulis, while we are on our way hither to make war on Priam and the Trojans. We were ranged about a fountain offering hecatombs to the gods upon their holy altars, and there was a fine plane tree from beneath where welled a stream of pure water. Then we saw a prodigy, for Jove sent a fearful serpent out of the ground with blood-red stains upon his back, and it darted from under the altar onto the plane tree. Now there was a brood of young sparrows, quite small, upon the topmost bough, peeping out from under the leaves, 8 in all, and their mother that hatched made them 9. The serpent ate the poor cheeping things, while the old bird flew about lamenting her little ones, but the serpent threw his coils about her and caught her by the wing as she was screaming. Then, when he had eaten both the sparrow and her young, the god who had sent him made him become a sign, for the son of scheming Saturn turned him into stone, and we stood wondering at that which had come to pass. Seeing then that such a fearful portent had broken upon our hecatombs, Calchas forthwith declared to us the oracles of heaven. "Why, Achaeans," said he, "are you thus speechless? Jove has sent us this sign, long in coming and long ere it be fulfilled, though its fame shall last forever. As the serpent ate the 8 fledglings and the sparrow that hatched them, which makes 9, so shall we fight 9 years at Troy, but in the 10th shall take the town." This was what he said, and now it is all coming true. Stay here, therefore, all of you, till we take the city of Priam. On this the Argives raised a shout till the ships rang again with the uproar. Nestor, knight of Gerene, then addressed them. "Shame on you," he cried, "to stay here talking like children when you should fight like men. Where are our covenants now, and where are the oaths that we have taken? Shall our counsels be flung into the fire with our drink offerings at the right hands of fellowships wherein we have put our trust? We waste our time in words, and for all our talking here shall be no further forward. Stand, therefore, son of Atreus, by your own steadfast purpose. Lead the Argives on to battle, and leave this handful of men to rot, who scheme in vain to get back to Argos ere they have learned whether Jove be true or liar. For the mighty son of Saturn surely promised that we should succeed, and when we Argives set sail to bring death and destruction upon the Trojans, he showed us favorable signs by flashing his lightning on our right hands. Therefore, Let none make haste to go till he has first lain with the wife of some Trojan, and avenged the toil and sorrow that he has suffered for the sake of Helen. Nevertheless, if any man is in such haste to be at home again, let him lay his hand to his ship, that he may meet his doom in the sight of all. But, O king, consider and give ear to my counsel, for the word that I say may not be neglected lightly. Divide your men, Agamemnon, into their several tribes and clans, that clans and tribes may stand by and help one another. If you do this, and if the Achaeans obey you, you will find out who, both chiefs and people, are brave, and who are cowards, for they will vie against the other. Thus you shall also learn whether it is through the counsel of heaven or the cowardice of man that you shall fail to take the town. And Agamemnon answered, Nestor, you have again outdone the sons of the Achaeans in counsel. Would by Father Jove, Minerva, and Apollo that I had among them 10 more such counselors, for the city of King Priam would then soon fall beneath our hands, and we should sack it. But the son of Saturn afflicts me with bootless wranglings and strife. Achilles and I are quarreling about this girl, in which matter I was the first to offend. If we can be of one mind again, the Trojans will not stave off destruction for a day. Now, therefore, get your morning meal, that our hosts join us in fight. Whet well your spears, see well to the ordering of your shields, give good feeds to your horses, and look your chariots carefully over, that we may do battle the livelong day, for we shall have no rest, not for a moment, till night falls to part us. The bands that bear your shields shall be wet with the sweat upon your shoulders, your hands shall be weary upon your spears, your horses shall steam in front of your chariots, and if I see any man shirking the fight, or trying to keep out of it at ships, there shall be no help for him, but he shall be prey to dogs and vultures. Thus he spoke, and the Achaeans roared applause. As when the waves run high before the blast of the south wind, and break on some lofty headland, dashing against it and buffeting without ceasing, as the storms from every quarter drive them, even so did the Achaeans rise and hurry in all directions to their ships. Then they lighted their fires at their tents and got dinner, offering sacrifice every man to one or other of the gods, and praying each one of them that he might live to come out of the fight. Agamemnon, king of men, sacrificed a fat 5-year-old bull to the mighty son of Saturn, and invited the princes and elders of his host. First he asked Nestor and King Idomeneus, then the 2 Ajaxes and the son of Tydeus, and sixthly Ulysses, peer of gods in council. But Menelaus came of his own accord, for he knew how busy his brother was then. They stood round the bowl with the barley meal in their hands, and Agamemnon prayed, saying, Jove, most glorious, supreme, that dwellest in heaven, and ridest upon the storm cloud, grant that the sun may not go down, nor the night fall, till the palace of Priam is laid low, and its gates are consumed with fire. Grant that my sword may pierce the shirt of Hector about his heart, and that full many of his comrades may bite the dust as they fall dying round him. Thus he prayed, but the son of Saturn would not fulfill his prayer. He accepted the sacrifice, yet none the less increased their toil continually. When they had done praying and sprinkling the barley meal upon the victim, they drew back its head, killed it, and then flayed it. They cut out the thigh bones, wrapped them round in 2 layers of fat, and set pieces of raw meat on top of them. These they burned upon the split logs of firewood, but they spitted the inward meats and held them to the flames to cook. When the thigh bones were burned, and they had tasted the inward meats, they cut the rest up small, put the pieces upon the spits, roasted them till they were done, and drew them off. Then, when they had finished their work and the feast was ready, they ate of it, and every man had his full share, so that all were satisfied. As soon as they had had enough to eat and drink, Nestor, knight of Gerene, began to speak. King Agamemnon, said he, let us not stay talking here, nor be slack in the work that heaven has put into our hands. Let the heralds summon the people to gather at their several ships. We will then go about among the host, that we may begin fighting at once. Thus did he speak, and Agamemnon heeded his words. He at once sent the criers round to call the people in assembly. So they called them, and the people gathered thereon. The chiefs about the son of Atreus chose their men and marshaled them, while Minerva went among them, holding her priceless aegis that knows neither age nor death. From it there waved 100 tassels of pure gold, all deftly woven, and each one of them worth 100 oxen. With this she darted furiously everywhere among the host of the Achaeans, urging them forward, and putting courage into the heart of each, that they might fight and do battle without ceasing. Thus war became sweeter in their eyes even than returning home in their ships. As when some great forest fire is raging upon a mountain top and its light is seen afar, even so as they marched the gleam of their armor flashed up to the firmament of heaven. They were like great flocks of geese, or cranes, or swans on the plain about the waters of Cayster, that winged their way hither and thither, glorying in the pride of flight, and crying as they settled to the fen as alive with their screaming. Even thus did the tribes pour from the ships and tents on the plan of Scamander, and the ground rang as brass under the feet of men and horses. They stood as thick upon the flower-bespangled field as leaves that bloom in summer. As countless swarms of flies buzz round a herdsman homestead in a time of spring when pails are drenched with milk, even so did the Achaeans swarm on the plain to charge the Trojans and destroy them. The chiefs disposed their men this way and that before the fight began, drafting them out as easily as goatherds draft their flocks when they have got mixed while feeding. And among them went King Agamemnon, with a head and face like Jove the Lord of Thunder, a waist like Mars, and a chest like that of Neptune. As some great bull that lords it over the herds upon the plain, even so did Jove make the son of Atreus stand peerless among the multitude of heroes. And now, O Muses, dwellers in the mansions of Olympus, tell me, for you are the goddesses and are all places so that you see all things, while we know nothing but by report, who were the chiefs and princes of the Danaans. As for the common soldiers, they were so that I could not name every single one of them, though I had 10 tongues, and though my voice failed not and my heart were bronze within me, unless you, O Olympian Muses, daughters of the aegis-bearing Jove, were to recount them to me. Nevertheless, I will tell the captains of the ships and all the fleet together. Penelos, Laetes, Arcesilaus, Prothana, and Clonius were the captains of the Boeotians. These were they that dwelt in Heria and rocky Aulis, who held Schoenus, Scolus, and the highlands of Etonius, with Thespia, Graea, and the fair city of Mycalaesis. They also held Harma, Elysium, and Erythrae, and they had Elion, Hyle, and Pition, Ocelia, and the strong fortress of Medion, Copia, Eutreses, and Thisbe, the haunt of doves. Coronia, and the pastures of Haliartus, Plataea, and Glissus, the fortress of Thebes the Less, wholly on Kestis with its famous grove of Nectune, Arnian rich in vineyards, Medea sacred Nisa, and Anthedon upon the sea. From these came the 50 ships, and in each there were 120 young men of the Boeotians. Ascalaphus and Ialmus, son of Mars, led the people that dwell in Esplendin, and Orchomenus the realm of Minos. Astyoche, a noble maiden, bore them in the house of Actor son of Asius, for she had gone with Mars secretly into an upper chamber, and he had lain with her. With these there came 30 ships. The Phocians were led of Saetus and Epistrophus, son of Modiophytus the son of Nabulus. These were those that truly held Cyparissus, rocky Pytho, holy Chrysa, Daulis, and Panopius. They also that dwelt in Anamora and Hyampolis, and about the waters of the river Cephisus, and Lalea by the springs of Cephisus. With their chieftains came 40 ships, and they marshalled the forces of the Phocians, which were stationed next to the Boeotians on their left. Ajax, the fleet son of Oileus, commanded the Locrians. He was not so great, nor nearly so great, as Ajax the son of Telamon. He was a little man, and his breastplate was made of linen, but in use of the spear he excelled all the Hellenes and the Achaeans. These dwelt in Sinus, Opius, Calarius, Bessa, Scarife, fair Augiae, Tarphe, and Thronium about the river Bogrius. With him there came 40 ships of the Locrians who dwelled beyond Euboea. The fierce Abantes held Euboea with its cities, Chalcis, Erythrea, Hestea rich in vines, Cerinthes upon the rock, and the rock-perched town of Dium. With them were also men of Charistus and Styra. Elephinior of the race of Mars was his command of these. He was son of Chalcodon and chief over all the Abantes. With him they came, fleet of foot and wearing their hair long behind, brave warriors who would ever strive to tear open the corslets of their foes with their long ashen spears. Of these there came 50 ships. And they that held the strong city of Athens, the people of great Eryctheus, who were born of the soil itself, but Jove's daughter, Minerva, fostered him and established him at Athens in her own rich sanctuary. There, year by year, the Athenian youths worshipped him with sacrifices of bulls and rams. These were commanded by Menestheus, son of Peteos. No man living could equal him in marshalling of chariots and foot soldiers. Nestor could alone rival him, for he was older. With him there came 50 ships. Ajax bought 12 ships from Salamis and stationed them alongside those of the Athenians. The men of Argos, again, and those who held the wall of Tyrrhenes with Hermione and a sign upon the gulf, Trojan, Iliane, and the vineyard lands of Epidaurus the Achaean youths, moreover, who came from Aegina and Masses, these were led by Diomed of the loud battle cry, and Sthenelus, son fame of Capaneus. With them in command was Euryalus, son of King Mecidas, son of Talus, but Diomed was chief over them all. With these there came 80 ships. Those who held the strong city of Mycenae, rich Corinth and Cleonthe, Orneae, Arathea, and Lycion, where Adrastus reigned of old, Hyperesia, Hygonessa, and Pellene, Aegium, and all the coastland round about the Hellas, these sent 100 ships under the command of King Agamemnon, son of Atreus. His force was far both finest and most numerous, and in their midst was the king himself, all glorious in his armor of gleaming bronze, foremost among the heroes, for he was the greatest king, and had the most men under him. And those that dwelt in Lacedaemon, lying low among the hills, Pharis, Sparta with Messe the haunt of doves, Bryciae, Augeae, Amyclae, and Helos upon the sea, Laius moreover and Odalus, these were led by Menelaus of the loud battle cry, brother to Agamemnon, and of them there were 60 ships, drawn apart from the others. Among them went Menelaus himself, strong in zeal, urging his men to fight, for he longed to avenge the toil and sorrow that he had suffered for the sake of Helen. The men of Pylos and Arene and Therium were at the ford of the river Alpheus, strong Api, Cyparissus, and Amphigenea, Telium, Helos, and Dorium, where the Muses met Thymius and stilled his minstrelsy forever. He was returning from Oechalia, where Eurytus lived, and reigned and boasted that he would surpass even the Muses, daughters of aegis-bearing Jove, if they should sing against him, whereon they were angry and maimed him. They robbed him of his divine power of song, and thenceforth he could strike the lyre no more. These were commanded by Nestor, knight of Gerene, and with him there came 90 ships. And those that held Arcadia, under the high mountain of Cyllene near the tomb of Aegyptus, where the people fight hand to hand, the men of Phineus also, and Orchomenus rich in flocks, of Rhipae, Stridae, the bleak of Anispa, of Tagia and fair Mantinea, of Stymphaeolus and Parihassa, of these King Agepnor, son of Ancaeus, was commander, and they had 60 ships. Many Arcadians, good soldiers, came in each one of them, but Agamemnon found them the ships in which to cross the sea, for they were not a people that occupied their business upon the waters. The men, moreover, of Euprasium and of Elis, so much of it as enclosed between Hermene and Myrsinus upon the seashore, the rock of Olene and Elysium. These had 4 leaders, and each of them had 10 ships, with many Epeans on board. Their captains were Amphimarchus and Thalippius, the one son of Cetaceus and the other of Eurytus, both of the race of Actor. The 2 others were Diorus, son of Amarinces, and Polyxenus, son of King Agasthenes, son of Augeas. And those of Dulcium were the sacred Achaean islands who dwelt beneath the sea off Elis. These were led by Meges, peer of Mars, and the son of valiant Phyleus, dear to Jove, who quarrelled with his father and went to settle in Dulcirium. With him there came 40 ships. Ulysses led the brave Cephallenians, who held Ithaca, Nereidum with its forest, Crocalia, rugged Aegyptus, Samos, and Zacnius, with the mainland also that was over against the islands. These were led by Ulysses, peer of Jove and council, and with them there came 12 ships. Thoas, son of Andremion, commanded the Aetolians, who dwelled in Pleuron, Oeneus, Pylene, Chalcis by the sea, and rocky Calydon, for the great King Oeneus had now no sons living, and was himself dead, as was also the golden-haired Meleager, who had been sent over the Aetolians to be their king. And with Thoas there came 40 ships. The famous spearsman Idomeneus led the Cretans, who held Crossus, and the well-walled city of Gortys, Lyctus also, Miletus, and Lycastus that lies upon the chalk, the populous town of Phaestus and Rhydium, with all the other peoples that dwell in the 100 cities of Crete. All these were led by Idomeneus and by Meriones, peer of murderous Mars, and with these there came 80 ships. Tlepolemus, son of Hercules, a man both brave and large of stature, bought 9 ships of lordly warriors from Rhodes. These dwelt in Rhodes, which is divided among the 3 cities of Lindus, Iasius, and Camerinus, that lie upon the chalk. These were commanded by Tlepolemus, son of Hercules by Astyochea, whom he had carried off from Ephyria on the river Celius after sacking many cities of valiant warriors. When Tlepolemus grew up, he killed his father's uncle Lysimenius, who had been a famous warrior in his time, but was then grown old. On this he built himself a fleet, gathered a great following, and fled beyond the sea, for he was menaced by the other sons and grandsons of Hercules. After a voyage during which he suffered great hardship, he came to Rhodes, where the people divided into 3 communities according to their tribes, and were dearly loved by Jove, the Lord of gods and men. Wherefore the son of Saturn showered down great riches upon them. And Nereus bought 3 ships from Syme. Nereus, who was the handsomest man that came up under Ilias of all the Danaans after the son of Peleus, but he was a man of no substance, and had but a small following. And those that held Nisyrus, Crapathus, and Cassis with Cos, the city of Eurypylus, and the Chaldean islands, these were commanded by Pheidippus and Antiphus, 2 sons of King Thessalus, the son of Hercules. And with them there came 30 ships. Those again who held Pelogassic, Argos, Alos, Alope, and Trachis, and those of Phthia and Hellas, the land of fair women, who were called the Myrmidons, Hellenes, and Achaeans, these had 50 ships, over which Achilles was in command. But now they took no part in the war, inasmuch as there was no one to marshal them. For Achilles stayed by his ships, furious about the loss of the girl Briseis, whom he had taken from Lyrnessus at his own great peril, when he had sacked Lyrnessus and Thebe, and had overthrown Minos and Epistrophus, son of King Evenor, son of Seleucus. For her sake Achilles was still grieving, but ere long he was again to join them. And those that held Phlace and the flowery meadows of Perseris, sanctuary of Ceres, Iton, the mother of sleep, Antrim upon the sea, and Tilium that lies upon the grasslands. Of these brave Protesilaus had been captain while he was yet alive, but he was now lying under the earth. He had left a wife behind him in Phylace to tear her cheeks in sorrow, and his house was only half finished, for he was slain by a Dardanian warrior while leaping foremost of the Achaeans upon the soil of Troy. Still, though his people mourned their chieftain, they were not without a leader, for Podorices, the race of Mars, marshalled them. He was son of Iphiclus, rich in sheep, who was the son of Phylacus, and he was own brother to Protesilaus, only younger, Protesilaus being at once the elder and more valiant. So the people were not without a leader, though they mourned him whom they had lost. With him there came 40 ships. And those that held Pherae by the Boebean lake, with Bobe, Glaphyrae, and the populous city of Iolcus, those with their 11 ships were led by Eumelus, son of Admetus, with Alcestis bore to him, loveliest of the daughters of Peleus. And those that held Methone and Thaumatia, with Melobia and rugged Olizon, these were led by the skillful archer Philoctetes, and they had 7 ships, each with 50 oarsmen, all of them good archers. But Philoctetes was lying in great pain in the island of Lemnos, where the sons of the Achaeans left him, for he had been bitten by a poisonous water snake. There he lay, sick and sorry, and full soon did the Argives come to miss him. But his people, though they felt his loss, were not leaderless, for Medon, the bastard son of Oileus by reign, set them in array. Those again of Tricca and the stony region of Ithome, and they that held Ochalia, the city of Ochalian Eurysthus, these were commanded by the 2 sons of Asclepius, skilled in the art of healing, Podalirius and Machaon, and with them came 30 ships. The men, moreover, of Ormenius, and by the fountain of Hyperia, with those that held Asterius and the white crests of Titanus, these were led by Eurypylus, the son of Eumaeon, and with them there came 40 ships. Those that held Agrissa and Gitone, or Thealone, the whelp city of Ulyson, of those brave Pelopodes was the leader. He was the son of Pirithous, who was the son of Jove himself, for Hippodamia bore him to Pirithous on the day when he took his revenge on the shaggy mountain savages, and drove them from Mount Pelion to the Ianthes. But Polypoetes was not sole in command, for with him was Leontius, of the race of Mars, who was son of Coronis, the son of Caeneus, and with these there came 40 ships. Guneus bought 22 ships from Cyphus, and he was followed by the Munes and the valiant Parabi, who dwelt about the wintry Dodona, and held the lands round the lovely river of Titarius, which sends its waters into Peneus. They do not mingle with the silver eddies of the Peneus, but flow on top of them like oil. For the Tartaresius is a branch of dread Orcus and of the river Styx. Of the Magnetes, Prothous son of Tethradon was commander. They were they that dwelt about the river Peneus and Mount Pelion. Prothous, fleet of foot, was their leader, and with them there came 40 ships. Such were the chiefs and princes of the Danaans. Who then, O Muse, was the foremost, whether man or horse, among those that followed after the sons of Atreus? Of the horses, those of the son of Phares were by far the finest. They were driven by Eumelus and were fleet as birds. They were the same age and color and perfectly matched in height. Apollo of the silver bow had bred them in Perea, both of them mares and terrible as Mars in battle. Of men, Ajax son of Telamon was much the foremost so long as Achilles' anger lasted, for Achilles excelled him greatly when he also had better horses. But Achilles was now holding aloof at his ships by reason of his quarrel with Agamemnon, and his people passed their time upon the seashore, throwing discs or aiming with spears at mark and in archery. Their horses stood each by his own chariot, champing lotus and wild celery. The chariots were housed under cover, but their owners, for lack of leadership, wandered hither and thither about the host, and went not forth to fight. Thus marched the host like a consuming fire, and the earth groaned beneath them when the Lord of Thunder is angry and lashes about the land of Typhoeus among the Arimi, where they say Typhoeus lies. Even so did the earth groan beneath them as they sped over the plain. And now Iris, fleet as the wind, was sent by Jove to tell the bad news among the Trojans. They were gathered in assembly, old and young, at Priam's gates, and Iris came close up to Priam, speaking with the voice of Priam's son Polites, who, being fleet of foot, was stationed as watchman for the Trojans on the tomb of old Aestes, to look out for any sally of the Achaeans. In his likeness Iris spoke, saying, "Old man, you talk idly, as in times of peace, while war is at hand. I have been in many a battle, but never yet saw such a host as is now advancing. They are crossing the plain to attack the city as thick as leaves or as the sands of the sea. Hector, I charge you above all others, do as I say. There are many allies dispersed about the city of Priam from distant places, and speaking diverse tongues. Therefore, let each chief give orders to his own people, setting them severally in array and leading them forth to battle." Thus she spoke, but Hector knew that it was the goddess, and at once broke up the assembly. The men flew to arms, all the gates were open, and the people thronged through them, horse and foot, with a tramp as of a great multitude. Now there is a high mound before the city, rising by itself upon the plain. Men called it Bataea, but the gods know that it is the tomb of lithe Myrnine. Here the Trojans and their allies divided their forces. Priam's son, great Hector of the gleaming helmet, commanded the Trojans, and with him were arrayed by far the greatest number and most valiant of those who were longing for the fray. The Dardanians were led by brave Aeneas, whom Venus bore to Anchises when she, goddess though she was, had lain with him upon the mountain slopes of Ida. He was not alone, for with him were the two sons of Antenor, Achelous and Acamas, both skilled in the arts of war. They that dwelt in Telia under the lowest spurs of Mount Ida, men of substance who drank the limpid waters of Asipus, and are of Trojan blood. These were led by Pandarus son of Lycaon, whom Apollo had taught to use the bow. They that held Adrastea at the land of Apicius with Pytidia in the high mountain of Terea, these were led by Adrastus and Amphius, whose breastplate was of linen. These were the sons of Merops of Percote, who excelled in all kinds of divination. He told them not to take part in the war, but they gave him no heed, for fate lured them to destruction. They that dwelt about Percote and Practius with Sestos, Albidos, and Arisbe, these were led by Asius, son of Hyrtacus, a brave commander. Asius, the son of Hyrtacus, whom his powerful dark bay steeds, of the breed that comes from the river Celius, had brought from Arisbe. Hippothos led the tribes of Pelasgian spearmen, who dwelt in fertile Larissa. Hippothos and Pyleus of the race of Mars, two sons of Pelasgian Lethus, son of Teudamus. Acamas and the warriors Pyrrhus commanded the Thracians and those that came from beyond the mighty stream of the Hellespont. Euphemus, son of Troezius, the son of Ceos, was captain of the Ceronian spearmen. Pyrachemes led the Paeonian archers from distant Amydon by the broad waters of the river Axius, the fairest that flow upon the earth. The Paphlagonians were commanded by stout-hearted Pylaeus from Ente, where the mules run wild in herds. These were they that held Cytorus in the country road round Sesamus, with the cities by the river Parthenius, Cromna, Aegilis, and lofty Erythini. Odius and Epistrophus were captains over the Halzoni from distant Alibi, where there are mines of silver. Chromis and Ennomus the augur led the Mysians, but his skill in augury availed him not to save him for destruction, for he fell by the hand of the fleet descendant of Aeacus in the river, where he slew other of the Trojans. Phorcys, again, and noble Ascanius led the Phrygians from the far country of Ascania, and both were eager for the fray. Mestes and Antiphus commanded the Meonians, son of Talamenes, born to him of the Gideon lake. These led the Meonians, who dwelt under Mount Tmolus. Nastes led the Carians, men of strange speech. These held Miletus and the wooded mountain of Phytheres, with the water in the river Melander and the lofty crest of Mount Mycale. These were commanded by Nastes and Amphimachus, brave son of Nomion. He came into the fight with gold about him like a girl, fool that he was. His gold was no avail to save him, for he fell in the river by the hand of the fleet descendant of Achaeus, and Achilles bore away his gold. Sarpedon and Glaucus led the Lycians from their distant land by the eddying waters of Xanthus. End of Book 2.